Hello everybody, we are going to be talking about a very fun topic today, and that is the Buffalo Sabres and the fact that they might just make the Stanley Cup Playoffs. Now before we start, please make sure to subscribe to my channel if you are new to me, new to hockey, whatever the case may be. I'd love to have you here along the way. Now let's get into it. And Buffalo is currently doing so much better than expected, especially if you're a bozo that said that they would probably finish 7th in their division. It's me. I'm the bozo. And instead, the Sabres actually sit 4th in the Atlantic Division right now with a record of 26, 19, and 3 after 48 games played. That's good enough for 55 points so far on the season, and that would put them at 94 points on pace for 94 points in a stretch which would be their best season since the 2010-11 run, where they ended up losing to the Pittsburgh Penguins in a 7-game series in the first round. Ironically, though, they are just behind the Penguins in the standings for a wildcard spot, and they are riding a 5-game win streak. In fact, MoneyPuck.com has their odds of making the playoffs at 56.8%, which is still 9th best in the Eastern Conference, but there is hope for this battered franchise more than halfway through the season, which I think means so much for the fans. So, what do they need to do to make the playoffs if they are going to do so? What are they going to do the rest of the way? The most obvious answer is win a lot of games, but to give you a better answer, I'd say they need to win certain games more. And yeah, you know, we are going to say that they need to win the easy games. I say easy games against teams like Anaheim, San Jose, Columbus, all that. But I think the games that are crucial for the Sabres to win and get into the playoffs are against the teams that are either right above them or just below them. Teams I'm talking about right now are teams like the Capitals, Islanders, Panthers, Penguins, and Red Wings. And that's, you know, those teams that are right around there, like I said. Now, the unfortunate thing for Buffalo is they don't play Pittsburgh the rest of the year. When I looked at their schedule, I didn't see any games between the two. But they do play the other teams that I mentioned 7 times combined. So, this means that these are not a lot of opportunities you're going to get in the remaining games, but if you win them, you really are helping yourself out by either gaining ground by, you know, winning against those teams that are above you and catching up to them, or by building a little bit bigger of a gap between yourself and the teams below you. I know that the Islanders have fallen out of that wild card spot because, well, they've lost something like 6 in a row, so that's good for Buffalo. But again, beating these teams, Detroit was a team I expected to be above them in the division this year. They're not. And so you're looking at this saying that they got to beat some experienced teams and then some teams that are kind of looking for or trying to find their identity a little bit. It also helps that for the Sabres, they have guys like Tage Thompson, Rasmus Dahlin, Alex Tuch, Dylan Cousins, etc., all having career years. Tage himself is looking to be the face of the franchise after not appearing to really find his footing. Just 2 seasons ago, he had played, I don't know how many games he had played, but he had played a few games in multiple seasons prior to 2 years ago and then exploded last year. Now we're talking about him potentially being on pace for 50-plus goals this season, and is a big part of why Buffalo's offense has been scorching hot this year. This is something they're going to have to do down the stretch as well. They have a goals for per 60 at 3.76, and that is even better than the Boston Bruins, currently number 1 in the league, and they have a top 10 expected goals for per 60, meaning the goals aren't a fluke either, that they're getting their expected goals and a little bit more than. But of course, if you have guys like Thompson, they're probably going to do better than their expected goals total. Kind of like Austin Matthews last year when he had 60 goals, he had an expected goals total that was lower than that. Why? Because he's a above average shooter. So if you want to make the playoffs, keep scoring at that rate, and you're probably going to be A-OK. However, there are a few things holding back this team from making the postseason. For starters, the PK is not exactly perfect. Currently sits at 5th worst in the entire league. I can't tell you all the problems with the penalty kill unit, but what I can say from statistics and graphs is I've seen a lot of scoring chances all over the ice. You know, you look at it typically, and it'll be kind of in the slot, maybe mid to low slot. That'll be where a lot of these teams are able to score goals. But, you know, looking at the dots even for the face-off and off the draw, there's a lot of goals or chances being allowed there as well off the PK. I've watched a few Buffalo games and kind of noticed it, but when I looked at the graphs, I really said, wow, that is apparent, that is an issue. It's funny, though, because the power play is kind of the opposite problem where they are just clicking, and the PK is not for them. Another thing for Buffalo that is kind of holding them back right now is goaltending. The 41-year-old Craig Anderson has really had to be the anchor in net for this team right now, but that's not necessarily a problem. It's just the fact that he's 41 years old, and I'm a big Anderson fan, but he's not the long-term future here for them in net. But you're hoping that maybe if they are able to make the playoffs, Craig can have another run in him, as you remember his days with the Ottawa Senators. But I think really the biggest issue stopping this team right now, or potentially stopping this team from making the postseason, is their schedule. Yes, there are some easy games left, like I mentioned. I think they have some games against Chicago, some games against Columbus, teams like that. But also they have some really hard games. Even the games I mentioned that are the teams around them are not easy. But according to Tankathon.com, Buffalo has the second hardest remaining schedule in the league, behind only the Montreal Canadiens. They've got 11 combined games against the Bruins, the Devils, Hurricanes, Lightning, and Maple Leafs and Rangers. So that's tough. And all of these teams have quite a bit to play for. Boston looking to be the best team in the league. Carolina, New York, these teams all there in the Metro are fighting for, the division title. If they're able to get it, I think Carolina will probably pull it out. I don't know, New Jersey's been really hot as of late. Maple Leafs and Lightning, they're fighting for the 2 spot out there. So that's tough. You really are not going to get a lot of breaks there, especially considering the fact that you've got those 7 other games against those teams that are right around there. That's 18 games specifically that are going to be really, really hard. So what now? Well, we just wait. Buffalo's already exceeded expectations for the season and can show us what their future really looks like these final 34 games. They've just got to find a way to make it happen, and seeing them score heaps of goals could be that way. They could have a old man, Craig Anderson, just anchor the situation in net and then score a bunch of goals and find their way in. I would love to see that for them. And like I said earlier, they definitely got to win the easy games. Buffalo, they've got some younger guys that are playing important roles for them. Big lesson that they could learn if they miss the playoffs is if they lose to teams like Anaheim. Those games that you have to find a way to win, because you don't want to lose ground there and then be forced to beat the other teams. Like I mentioned, the 11 games that are really just tough matchups there, that you don't want to have to run into a situation where you have to win like 7 of those 11 games, something like that, to get in. But that is a reality that we could see. Will they shock the world and make the playoffs this year? I don't know, but I can tell you right now, they are already giving their fans something to believe in. It feels like, since I've been a fan, or I got back into hockey back in 2013, that the Sabres haven't had a lot of hope. Yeah, there was the early Eichel era where it was Jack will lead us to greatness, all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. But in general, it doesn't feel like there's been a lot of hope. This team right now is really fun to watch, and they're also a team that is, hoping to build off this and to build into something better, into something sustainable that can be in a spot to maybe contend for not only a playoff spot, but a little bit more down the road. But we'll have to see. Maybe, just maybe, the team in upstate New York can, pull off the upset. I would be so thrilled for them as they finally get some sunshine peeking through the sky at them. But the question is now, do you think that the Buffalo Sabres will make the postseason this year? Why or why not? Let me know down below. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. You go love hockey, all right? Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.